Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 26th Board of Education meeting. Mr. Calavano.
Roll call. Mr. Charles.
Present.
Mrs. Lamb.
Present.
Mrs. Mordecai.
Present.
Mr. Robertson.
Present.
Mrs. Horsbaum.
Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice of meeting. Please take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided for in the following manner. That a written notice was sent from the Office of the Secretary of the Board at 4 p.m. on January 5th, 2016. That said notice was sent by regular mail to the West Orange Township Clerk and the editors of the West Orange Chronicle and the Star Ledger. That said notice was posted in the lobby of the Administration Building of the Board of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Calavano. May I have a motion for consideration of the closed and public meeting minutes of August 22nd, 2016?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Rutsky.
Thank you. We're going to start tonight with the strategic plan. So if I can, and we're going to follow it up with the HIB self-assessment grade that's required by the state. So if I can ask all the board members to just have a seat in the front row, we'll get set up for the presentation. Okay, for those that have not met the new Assistant Superintendent, Ebony DeMendez, she obviously is to my right. She and I are going to present the strategic plan tonight. Before we begin, I want to really thank individuals from the community that were part of the first three meetings. There were many teachers involved in that process. Students were involved. A lot of stakeholders who came to put this together in the format that we needed to have it. Once that process was done, then it got turned over to us, and we got the board input from their suggestions based on the goals, objectives, and then we turned it over to the administrators to finalize the process and to create the action plan that goes along with the goals and the objectives. And you will see that as we go through it. Now, what's important to note is we're not going through line by line, word by word, of each goal, each objectives, and the piece to the strategic plan, to the action plan, excuse me, simply because we would be here for the next 3 hours. This will be available. It's in draft form right now. Hopefully the Board of Ed will approve this tonight, and we will publish this on the website tomorrow so everybody can see each of the goals, all the objectives that align to the goals, and then the action plan will be available to see how we're going to accomplish what we have set out to accomplish. We're going to start and recognize the board members that have done this, as well as all those members, and I really do want to thank them. There were 3 long meetings, very tedious meetings, to discuss what we're doing well in the district, where we can improve in the district, and what direction the next 5 years should look like within the district. Let's go ahead and move over. Okay, Goal 1. 21st century learning facilities and program accessibility. Goal 2, readiness for future success. Goal 3, holistic health and wellness. And Goal 4, parent, student, and community engagement. For Goal 1, for all the goals, there is a goal statement. And I'm going to read a few of these because these are important, and then we'll start moving along fairly quickly with the presentation. But Goal 1, as I mentioned, the actual goal is 21st century learning, facilities, and program accessibility. The goal statement: create 21st century learning spaces that ensure safety and security, an innovative environment that supports independent, collaborative, and experiential learning for students pre-K through 12. Goal 2, increase student achievement to ensure all students are challenged in engaging quality instructional program that prepares them for competitive college and career opportunities and future success. 3, promote the wellness of students in pre-K through 12 by recognizing the correlation between their daily experiences and their mental and physical health. And 4, maximize transparent communication by providing meaningful feedback and input opportunities towards continuous improvement efforts in order to strengthen family, school, and community partnerships. Okay, now you see this is Goal 1. We already discussed what it is, so we can move kind of through that quickly. You'll see on the next slide, the left side of it is the actual goal that we've talked about, and here are the 4 objectives behind it. Again, we're not going to read all these objectives. You can see them on the screen. You'll be able to look at them tomorrow at length at your leisure if you need to, or in the next few days to determine. But one of the most important ones that I want to recognize is the development of a 5-year plan that addresses the current overcrowding at the elementary schools. I think everybody who's an elementary teacher would recognize that we clearly have an issue that we need to address and put a plan in place over the next few years that start to come up with ideas so we can alleviate some of the overcrowding in the elementary schools. In the middle schools and the high school, we're absolutely fine with the number of students in each of the facilities. But that is one of the biggest one for Goal 1. And then you'll see we have the pie chart here, develop the 5-year plan, update the facilities to support technology, improve district-wide safety and ensuring safe routes to and from school, and then obviously trying to fund different things within the district through grant and partnership opportunities. The small boxes, they're coming up and you'll be able to see them. There's a breakdown. Now this is the actual action plan, but only highlights of the action plan. It is not all of the items from the action plan, again, because this entire page would be filled up and it would be too small for you to see everything out there. So when you're looking through the document, you'll be able to see the highlights of the action plan, but when you actually look at the action plan, you'll see there are many more steps and many more items that we will be addressing. Goal 2, readiness for future success. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Mendez.
Good evening. Goal 2 really focuses on student achievement. Our primary objectives are 7. The first one, though, being the critical one, and it's increasing district performance to the top 25th percentile by incrementally improving student achievement over the next 5 years. All of the other goals support it, creating an aligned instructional system, creating an aligned assessment framework, and an instructional focus on reading. I'm going to focus then on the first goal, which is incrementally increasing student achievement over the next 5 years. We looked at the student achievement data, we looked at benchmark assessment results, and based on that we created baseline data in order to set some very clear goals for every content area. You will see these outlined in the action plan once it's posted, but you'll see examples here. We created a district goal around PARCC, graduation rate, the PSAT, the SAT. We're saying by 2021, this is our goal, this is how we'd like to see the students improve. Some of these are process goals, so you'll see on these when we're talking about reading and ELA and AP English, these goals may consist of developing curriculum where it needs to be developed and or revised, developing benchmark assessments that really will give us the data that is meaningful that we need in order to move instruction. We have our math goals, 2 to 5, 6 to 8, and an Algebra 1 goal. We're focusing a lot in the strategic plan on Algebra 1 and also evaluating the CMP program in the middle schools. We know that algebra is the #1 predictor to college readiness and success, and therefore we're going to make sure that we're looking at math from middle school up so that it addresses the algebra needs of the students. We have our science, social studies, technology, and engineering. A key goal here is the CTE STEM programs, making sure that once we identify sequences in CTE, that students are not only enrolled, but that they're moving through the sequence. So if they select the first course of the sequence, that they complete that sequence and move toward receiving dual credit, which is one of our long-term goals. English language learners, physical education, fine arts, here with our ELLs, making sure that they are exiting from ESL proficient at grade level. That's a critical goal. And so we've talked about incrementally increasing student achievement, and as you go through the action plan, you'll see the other areas that we are going to focus in on in order to get those results. This next goal here is about reading at or above grade level, establishing that as a priority across the district, not only in ELA, but also across the content areas. And so when we're taking a look at reading, we're going to focus in on the different aspects of reading that will ensure that students move across the reading levels, that they acquire the necessary skills in order to be effective in the other content areas. Looking at establishing some very clear benchmarks or expectations for growth and proficiency. I think that's the critical piece here. We're used to looking at growth. We're going to add the proficiency. Looking at the Reader's Workshop model, looking at text complexity, looking at independent reading as a very protected part of the reader's block in order to increase those levels. Other areas include STEAM, the school counseling program, evaluating that, and evaluating and redesigning our G&T program.
One of the important parts to Goal 2 is a lot of emphasis on the reading. And we can talk about what we want, but the bottom line is everybody reads every day. Everybody in this room reads every single day, and we know the research is very clear that at the end of second grade, if we do not have students on grade level reading, that they have a much lower chance of ever getting on grade level reading, let alone above grade level reading. So we have a lot of work that we have put in the phonics program this year, foundations to support the teachers in what they feel was a piece missing. So we're hoping that helps identify some of those areas, as well as other strategies. So we're going to do a lot of work down at the elementary level, but also continuing through the middle school and the high school levels as well. Our third goal, we're talking about holistic health and wellness, the objectives, again, really talking about wellness and health and wellness and helping kids understand. Back in the day when we used to roll the ball out in phys ed, those days are long over, and the phys ed teachers in the district do a fine job. Mr. Alvine has done a really nice job in helping everybody understand about health and wellness. So we're going to continue that, helping students with well-being, reducing stress, and then eating properly and having choices at lunchtime. There are children who are vegetarians that when we need to have conversations about, they have to ask for it. And the question is, well, why do they have to ask for it? It should be available. They shouldn't have to ask. It should just be there for them. And things of that nature, healthy choices. So we also have to please the kids who want to eat pizza every day. And the parents okay with the child eating pizza every day, so we have to meet those nutritional standards through doing all of that. But it's important, the extracurricular experiences for the health and wellness. And looking at kids K-12 and making sure that we realize that it's not a sprint, that is an absolute marathon when we're talking about kids and learning how to eat healthy and become physically fit. It's okay, you do not have to be an athlete to learn to be healthy. And then goal 4, we're talking about our parents, school, and community engagement, expanding the work of the Public Relations Committee, and doing outreach and recruitment programs with our alumni and working parents to expose kids to different opportunities and preparing them for what comes after 12th grade. And then certainly highlighting student achievements, us doing a better job of highlighting those two pieces. But those three are really the biggest pieces to that goal. And again, when we get to the piece where we say thank you, I started the presentation with the thank you because there were a lot of individuals who went to those meetings, teachers that are here tonight, teachers who are not here tonight, that went and spent their time working with the representative from school boards, as well as really providing some local knowledge to help with what's working and what's not. And then the community members who do no longer have children in the district, but still came out and had their input and really shared what they thought was important. And then obviously, when it got to the action plan piece, how we're going to get this done. So a lot of thank yous go out to it, and we really appreciate their time and their efforts in that. So what we're going to do now is invite the board to come back up, and we're going to take questions from the board on the strategic plan. Mr. Mendez and I will take questions, and at that point then we'll move into the HIB report. If you have any questions on the strategic plan, when we have the public comment, you're welcome to come up and make questions, and Mr. Mendez and I will try to answer those questions for you. Please.
Are there any questions from the board at this time? Ms. Mordecai?
We've been discussing this over several months now, so I actually don't have any questions tonight, but I would like to say thank you to all the faculty, staff, community members, parents, everyone who had input. This is really great. We haven't done a strategic plan in some time, so this is really great. This guides us through the next 5 years, and as discussed earlier, the action plan is actually a fluid document, so it can change from time to time. So this is really a great start. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to the administration and this assistant superintendent and superintendent for all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mordecai. Mr. Schwartzbaum, any comments or questions?
Just wanted to commend Superintendent on putting together a very comprehensive 5-year strategic plan that we all work together. I totally concur with the key is reading, that reading plays such a key role in everyone's life, and being at grade level, as well as the objective to be in the 75th percentile of the state. It's a step function. It'll take us time, but I think it's an important goal for the district.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartzbaum. Mr. Charles?
I have 2 questions for the superintendent and assistant superintendent. On the PSAT section on page 7, it basically says that the PSATs will increase to 90%. I was wondering, you may not have that information now. Where are we now percentage-wise?
Mr. Mendez, you want to address that?
Our participation is in around the 80th percentile.
Okay.
It is exceeding the state, and so then we are looking to increase to the 90th.
Okay. My follow-up question, same kind of, is on page 9, where it talks about physical education, increasing to 90%. Again, where are we now, percentage-wise?
So the issue with the physical education participation is it's not across the board. We have programs at the elementary, middle, and high. We want to standardize it so it's 312. We're using a similar program. And what's important is that it becomes systemic. So what we're doing in elementary, we build on in middle, and then we build on in high school. Right. The old days of the presidential fitness exam, it doesn't exist any longer, but Kevin Alvine and the teachers done a really nice job of putting something together that reflects that, and we're going to build that 3 through 12.
Okay, sounds good. And last thing I have a comment is I just want to thank everyone who participated in the plan over the course of about a year. All stakeholders involved, from the staff. I want to thank the administration, for the assistant superintendent and superintendent for you guys' hard work on it. It's a very comprehensive plan. It's a very aggressive plan, and I think we're moving in the right direction if we start to achieve some of these goals. That's it.
Mr. Robertson?
Yes. First, I do want to thank our teachers and parents who contributed to this, spent a lot of time on this, and congrats to the administration for doing a fantastic job on this. And Ms. Mendez, I just want to say, you worked very, very hard on this, and you made a difference from the day you walked in the door. And just thank you very much. This is comprehensive, and it's a powerful plan. I do have some questions. First, on the 21st century facilities and learning environment. The plan does address the alleviating overcrowding in elementary schools. And it does mention cost analysis, and then a couple of pages back, there's a reference to funding, exploring various funding resources. I think in looking at indicators of success, we should also examine, and I know that it's a board goal already to do a demographic study, but key to that in working with the township is going to be able to getting an idea of what the impact of all the wonderful development that's occurring is going to have, whether it's the 334 apartments for Prism, or the 300 houses going up there, or the development Prospect, et cetera, that's being looked at Prospect or at Mayfair, because even as we alleviate current overcrowding, this impact may require looking at both financing, corporate partnerships, et cetera, to really address the longer term need. Next, as we look at where are we here? And I see that you have a supervisor, fund development supervisor potentially in there. I would ask that, given it's in our budget actually this year, that we look at actually the less expensive approach of using an outside consultant like the NJSBA and their grant office before hiring, because they have a 50% close rate, and the money could go a lot further initially, and then look at supervisory hire further down the road. When we get to Goal 2, Readiness for Future Success, I was blown away by this and just find it really impressive, particularly in looking at the really aggressive goals that there are. Trying to put us in the top 25%, looking at percentage of, in terms of scoring higher in AP, raising scores by 13.7%, et cetera. And I was wondering, when it came to the PSAT, SAT, and ACT, we have solid goals in terms of participation increase and some score increases, but I'm not seeing really spelled out what the actions would be. And the only thing I would ask is, because I know that this is a living document, that we consider the fact that our kids are competing against kids, other kids who may be in Kaplan or other programs where it's 6 to 8 weeks of prep, and that they need to be on the same competitive ground, and whether we're looking at somehow integrating that into the curricula or having additional things beyond the current boot camp, which is a good start, but does not compete head-to-head with the level of preparation that many of the kids are getting that we're competing against. So I just ask that that be looked at as we move ahead. Also, in terms of future success and college and career prep, I did not see, is there a goal for increasing our 4-year college acceptance rate or 2-year college acceptance rate?
It is not written in the plan. However, the high school is assembling a data team at Mr. Rutsky's request, and he has asked them to take a very good look at our acceptance rate and our attendance rate. There is an Objective 6, which was added, a goal that looks at really working with students who are planning to attend the top colleges, and what are the conversations that are happening between guidance counselors and those students, and how are we making sure that we are fostering that culture.
Okay. Also, I'd ask that as we do that, we look at are there ways that we can give better financial direction? I know of a bunch of kids personally who got into Ivy League or top 20 schools, and even after getting financial aid and after getting scholarships, it still couldn't quite take them over the hump. And they still ended up in good schools. I mean, Rutgers Honors is great, but when you're turning down, a Princeton or something like it, it's painful. So if we could also look at how to improve the financial education around that, so parents can be better fortified and kids can have more opportunities. Also in that same section, and this is just really impressive, by the way. I was really blown away by it. I see here. Wait a second. One of the things that I think that we also have an opportunity for when we look at some of the partnerships, because we talk about university partnerships, and we certainly have the opportunity to expand that, and we have some good ones right now we could expand upon with Rutgers and as well as MSU and others. But we should also consider, are there nonprofit education partners? You're probably familiar with NSBE and HESPA and the National Society for Black Engineers and Hispanic Engineers. There's also Inroads, Aspira, SEO, and there are a number of them that would actually partner with high schools and middle schools and helping with mentorship and internships, et cetera. And last, I see we do have, not last, but close to last, we do have our alumni mentioned in the community engagement. I believe it's like goal 4 or 5, goal 4. And it's wonderful that they're there for community engagement, but I think that alumni are potentially a huge help in terms of the readiness for future success, whether it's tapping alumni for If you have alumni currently at the college, especially and alumni have graduated, for recommendations, for advocacy with admissions, for college tours, for insights as to what the college cultures are really like, for help on applications. We have Rebecca Butler at Dartmouth, for instance, who's volunteered, and she's now in Master's in Biomedical Engineering. Our alumni, I think, are a great resource for the college and career preparation part. And then for the alumni who've graduated college and may have built businesses or be in corporations, for helping us with internships. Paid internships potentially even in high school. I know Inroads does that, a number of others do that. So that's something I'd like to see that kind of shifted from goal 4 or some aspects of it to goal number 2. And last, when we're looking at the goal 4, parent, school, and community engagement, there are 2 elements also I think that would be very helpful. One is the NJSBA, New Jersey School Board Association, recommends a climate survey of teachers, parents, and even students, of course, different surveys for the students, that be done at least once a year, in some cases even twice, because it allows people to give confidential input on progress, on needs, on all sorts of areas. There can be an open-ended question as well as a multiple choice, but climate surveys can be helpful in giving us concrete data beyond the listening sessions with the community that are planned in here. And last, diversity. We've made strides in diversity recruitment by going to HBCUs, historical black colleges, universities, and HSIs, Hispanic service institutions. But I remember it was about 11 years ago, I think, that we actually did a diversity fair here, shortly after I got here, over at Washington School, and it was packed with applicants. Could we consider doing a diversity fair for staff hires here? And also something that would help all teachers, regardless of race or ethnicity, is diversity and cross-cultural training. We have folks who are already caring and sensitive and nurturing, but there are a lot of nuances in cultures that with that type of training we can better connect with a student. And I'm not going to go through all the anecdotes I've heard, but there's an opportunity for that to happen. I mean, beyond just somebody giving a 1-hour lecture, which I know we used to do, to new teachers coming in. But if we could explore a real diversity initiative that helps to empower all of our current folks to be able to engage even better with parents and with students, as well as looking at a diversity job fair.
Mr.
And
Ladd,
that's it. Thank you very much.
Let me just address some of these.
Oh, go right ahead.
Please.
Okay. So we have built in there that we're working with the township on their growth, meeting with them, talking to them, looking at the development of their plans for people that if there are new developments that are going up, we know about it in plenty of time. So that's already built in there. The aggressive goals, there's been a lot of conversations with all the administrators in that what's the worst thing that can happen if you're aggressive is you fail, but if you don't really try to raise the bar, there's nothing wrong with failing when you really raise the bar and challenge everybody to do a little bit different, look at it differently, and so on. So being aggressive is exactly what's in here. And there's nothing wrong when you set the goal at 12% and you only meet 10.
Yep.
The idea is the goal was 12, but 10 is nice progress, and then we reevaluate and go from there. So the aggressive goals are built in purposely.
Excellent.
The prep for the SAT, ACT, and PSAT, et cetera, we've had a lot of conversations. 2 districts in particular we've been talking to is Milburn and Livingston, and they have a course that's built right into, now again, I'm not sure, I'm sure if we surveyed people, you'd say half, yes, that's a good idea, and half, it's not a good idea. And then you have the piece about integrating the importance of those areas into the subject areas. So it's something we're going to look at and evaluate and discuss and determine what needs to be done to maybe make some change there. As far as the goal for 4-year college increases and looking at all those numbers, the 2 years, 4 years, that is in there in the action plan piece to look at. And that's important because the idea is there are many kids that are accepted to certain colleges but don't go for reasons that are beyond us, and that's okay. But what we've got to do is a better job of recognizing those kids that were accepted, but chose not to go. And there's nothing wrong with kids saying, you know, I was accepted to Harvard and I'm going to Montclair State University because of the following reason. That's okay. That's their choice. If it's because we're not helping them financially from freshman year on to really understand, and the parents as well, we got to make that adjustment. But you know, we have to be understanding that sometimes kids are accepted but can't go for other reasons. But that's in the action plan as well. The college partnerships, definitely looking at all that. The alumni, we've been doing a lot of work this year with alumni. In fact, Friday night, I left the game and went over to the 40th reunion over there and was talking to many of them. And you know, we have all of their email addresses. We have all their information. And Perry Bashkoff went over and he was taking some pictures of people and really trying to get all that info so we can add that to the alumni and tap into them, and because they want to give back. You know, they want to help. So that piece is clearly in play. And then the climate survey, we have 2 times a year built in, early and at the end of the year. So that's built into the action plan. And the diversity fair and the diversity training is clearly part of it as well. So we recognize that we're trying to recruit a diverse population of staff members. And then we have the piece of the diversity training, which we agree that there's some, you know, you can call it diversity, you can call it sensitivity, you can call it both of those. There's some people who do that very well, and so we're looking at all that to be part of the action plan.
Thank you. An amazing plan. Thank you so much for your hard work.
Okay, Sandy, go ahead.
Mr. Rutsky, I believe we already have diversity and cultural sensitivity training. I remember a few years ago when the faculty started going to Montclair State, and prior to that, others went as well. Did we stop that? And I know we also had training as well for new employees.
Yeah, we did not stop it.
1 hour.
We did not stop it. It still happens. Mr. Mendez did some very fine training with the new staff orientation, and we do have. What I'm talking about is something that every single staff member in the district receives, and so that's what we're talking about.
I thought we still had that you went to Montclair State, or they used to.
You have to remember, though, that, let's see, how long's Christie been in? 7 years ago when Governor Christie got in.
Oh, and you cut our budget. Yes.
Well, there were some mandatory things that came about that we have to do. And when you look at the school year and you look at what's required for training, and you know, it's something we can bring up, and we have to actually have the conversation next board meeting about it, but there's only so much time that things can be done. So sometimes things take a back seat. You know, 5 years ago, what happened is not the same thing that's going on. So it may have gone on, and it may not be continued as of now, but we're going to. We're certainly going to.
And if you can, I know when my sons were in the high school, they did have Kaplan, but I believe not everybody participated because of financial reasons. It was really expensive. So I'm not sure if that's the reason we stopped, but if you could just take a look at that. I remember it being...
It's very expensive.
It was about $600 a course. And
for a PSAT alone, it's about $500.
But we used to have it in the high school, but it was not very well attended because of our economic diversity.
Absolutely. That's why if we can, to what Mr. Resky said earlier, as he's talking to Livingston and Milburn, and how they approach it where it can be built in, that would be really phenomenal. No, I wasn't saying affording Kaplan. We say we're competing against.
Okay, I thought you said Kaplan.
No, so we're competing against kids who are taking Kaplan and other things. But thank you. That's a great plan.
Okay, thank you.
Just 2 questions, Ms. Menendez. I'm sorry. Demendez. My apologies. The fine arts goal, how did you come to that particular goal? That's on page 9 of our slide.
It is. Currently in rhythmic interpretation, there are benchmarks in grade 8 and there are benchmarks in grade 9. And so Mr. Quagliato is looking at making sure that the students who are performing or who are just proficient or below proficiency in grade 8, that as they work through the benchmarks and the specific skill sets in the following year, that they score in the proficient or advanced proficient in grade 9.
Okay, yeah, I just looked at it, I was like, that's kind of strange.
It
How'd
is.
you get to that
It's very
one?
specific.
Also, I just want to thank you both for taking the initiative to revamp and look at again our Gifted and Talented program. For years, we've been hearing very valid complaints regarding the HAP program, and I do think it's time to manipulate that program so our students are better served. So thank you very much for that.
Absolutely.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yeah, as we discussed last year, this year we're putting a committee together of teachers and parents and administrators to really look at the G&T program, specifically the HAP program at 3-5.
Yeah.
But one of the things we have to be aware of is that the regulation in the state is the Gifted and Talented is a K-12 program.
Yeah.
It does not start in third grade, so we need to fix that and get that in there. And very, few kids at K1 and 2 need to be that, but you have to have that in place. So we're going to pull that committee together at the end of August. End of October. We're going to send some things out and invite some individuals to be part of that.
Great. Thank you very much for the presentation, both of you. Continuing on.
Okay, so I just want to take a moment, switch gears to the required HIB self-assessment grade for each building. And I want to give a little bit of background for those that aren't aware what goes on and why this has to be done. The governor put this into place, obviously, after a very terrible incident with a Rutgers student. And from there came the bill of the HIB Bill of Rights Act. And we have what's called 8 core elements. And of those 8 core, then there's indicators under each of those core elements. And the school safety team is required to meet monthly and have conversations around different things that are going on. And one of the most important things they do is they look at the actual cases that are happening, the HIB cases, not founded cases, just cases, to determine if there's a pattern somewhere. For instance, are all kinds of issues happening at lunchtime or during unsupervised time or during recess or et cetera, and they look at that and try to put things into place that may eliminate some of those kinds of behaviors that could be conflict, but they're being reported as HIB, and then there's a lot of time involved in the HIB process. So of those 8 core elements, the indicators for each receives a score of a 0 to 3, and the score is based on you get a 0 if you do not meet the requirements, you get a 1 for partially meeting the requirements, a 2 for meeting all requirements, and a 3 for exceeding the requirements. And I provided to you the document that indicates for each indicator and for all of those elements that are part of it. So the bottom line is that each school goes in and puts a number in, and again, that's why it's called a self-assessment. They go and put it under each element, and there's a total score, maximum of 78, that they can receive. And so what I provided to you is each school's score, and you'll notice the first one I gave you is Edison Middle School, and they got a 73 out of 78, and then looking at Gregory Elementary School, 71 out of 78. Hazel, 74 out of 78. Liberty Middle School, 75 out of 78. Roosevelt is 76 out of 78. St. Cloud, 70 out of 78. Washington, 66 out of 78. West Orange High School, 73 out of 78. Redwood Elementary School, 70 out of 78. Mount Pleasant Elementary School, 67 out of 78. And Kelly Elementary School was 72 out of 78. So the bottom line is they go in, and then we have to, by law, bring this to you so you can look at this, ask any questions you have. But a lot of this really provides the school safety teams, the principals, and all the members within that school the opportunity to evaluate how well they're doing in addressing all the components to the HIB law. So tonight you need to go through this, and we need to approve the grade. We then need to submit it to the to the state within the next couple of days, indicating you have seen it and what the grade is. Then those grades get posted on each school's website and the district website for parents to be able to see what they are.
Thank you, Mr. Rutsky. Just my initial assessments of the document, the one thing that really stands out and greatly disturbs me, honestly, is the rationale or the reason why the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act came about was because we know a child's committed suicide at a college. However, on the indicators for our schools, there is a constant that instruction in suicide prevention that included information on HIB is deficient. So I would really hope that after this analysis is done, that that instruction is stepped up a lot.
Sure, let me address that. One of the things that's required, we were talking about the required trainings that have come into place, and this isn't a new one, is that every 5 years, every staff member has to be trained on suicide prevention. It's a 2-hour training. With that, anybody who comes in brand new, we are going to provide that training this year. They receive certifications for it, and then every year after, during the new staff orientation, that training would take place. The bottom line is that these indicators are very broad, and we need to look at them not so much that this is not being addressed within the building. It could be a few instances in each building or a building that things are happening, and it's not something that's district-wide. And one year it may be an issue, and the next year it may not be. So let's take one of the schools, and they had 3 situations. All of a sudden, that looks like there's a problem in that school, when in reality they haven't done anything differently. They've done very fine training. They've been very cognizant of things. It's just 3 separate episodes happened that didn't happen 2 years before, the year before, etc. So we need to be a little bit careful with this, because we're not talking about longitudinal data. We're talking about year in and year out, and we know kids make mistakes. The training is there, the guidance is there, the help is there, but we know kids make mistakes.
Can you explain what is the composition of the school safety team?
Sure, it's made up of teachers and administrators, building administrators, parents. It can be made up of community members. There are the requirements are the building administrators, the teachers, the guidance counselors usually on it, child study team members are on it. So it's a diverse group from the building, and if you can get some individuals from the community to be part of it, that helps to bring in a different perspective, but the others are required.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Ms. Mordecai?
Yes. Mr. Rutsky, one other item that I noticed that's common to most of the buildings is letter D on the first page, halfway down the middle, the indicators. The numbers seem low for professional development in effective practices of successful school climate programs or approaches. Generally, the score is a 2 or a 1 in most buildings.
I'm sorry, Ms. Mordecai, which one was that?
Here I have it. Letter D.
Safety
The school
team.
climate program or
Yes.
approaches.
So what happens there is they require the school safety teams to go out to training. Sometimes those trainings are held locally. Sometimes they're not. The problem is those trainings are sometimes more than one day. And when you're asking about a diverse group of individuals to go out, when you're talking about the principal, the guidance counselor, teachers, child study team members, guidance, they all have to go. So if they don't all go, then they can't indicate that all of them were trained as a safety team. Now, there is training that can take place in the building, but the way this is set up is that they have to go out for that to take place. And it's very challenging. And it's not that we don't, but you got to remember there's 11 schools, 11 safety teams, so you're talking somewhere in the ballpark of 5 to 10 individuals on those teams. So to get all those individuals out at the same time is very tough. But it's not that they don't know what they need to do. The safety teams are very knowledgeable about what their role is.
Okay. It was just disconcerting that pretty much most of the buildings, the number is low, the score is low for each of them. Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Charles?
I just want to follow up on Ms. Mordecai's. Is there something we can do to bring that training in-house or have a train-the-trainer program or something so that, you know, I'm looking at 5 schools that graded themselves as a 1, so.
Yeah, we last year, if you remember, one of the things that's required every year is HIB training for administrators, et cetera. And we brought in a group from PSA that David Nash is the gentleman who did it. He did a really nice job with it. That's what the thought is this year for the safety teams, you know, to pull out. But the requirement for the safety team from the state is multiple days. And what we're trying to do is say to them is that we agree that the training is needed, but you're pulling out the key people, the teachers. You know, we have a lot of professional development and so on. So if we can try to do it in-house, it would be a whole lot easier for us. So we're looking at that piece to try and accomplish that. So Miss Butler is the one who gets this before I do, and she evaluates this and sits down with them and has that conversation, and she made that recommendation because she identified that as well.
That's all I have.
Mr. Robertson?
Just want to build a little bit on what Mrs. Lab was talking about. CNN just reported that there's been a significant increase in suicides among African American children who historically had a much lower rate. And I was wondering what type of training beyond the HIB team or orientation our teachers are given, because a teacher, a homeroom teacher, may be the first one who has an opportunity to catch something or see something.
Yeah, again, the idea is that the requirement is every 5 years. We're going to provide that training this year again. And we think that it's been within the last 5 years, but it's not something we want to be unsure of. So we're going to provide that training to help everybody. You know, again, the part of suicide prevention is using some common sense and seeing that a child looks like he or she's not right. And then there are trained professionals in every building to help with that. But the bottom line is that, you know, if it's me and I'm talking to a family and I see the child and I have concerns, I'm going to certainly act on that. And there are people within the district that know exactly how to do that. That doesn't require I get training for that. That's just looking at a child and understanding what that takes. So the bottom line is we will fulfill the requirement of the suicide prevention training, but we also, you know, people know kids, they know them well. When they see they're not doing well, they refer them immediately to the right people who deal with this every single day.
Mr. Schwartzbaum?
From the reports, the self-assessment, 2 schools stand out, primarily Mount Pleasant Elementary School and the Washington Elementary School. So what steps are you taking to really address these specific 2 schools?
Yeah, Ms. Butler has met with both groups and both principals and had a conversation about you know, what the challenges seem to be and why things, and there's a plan put in place to make sure that they're getting additional training if they needed, additional help, making sure that programs are being offered and things of that nature. That's the one thing Ms. Butler does when she gets this in. She evaluates this, sits and looks at the common thread amongst all the schools that she could provide or we could provide to everybody to address some of those situations.
Thank you, Mr. Rutsky.
Okay, lastly is the HIB report. As you know, we are required to report any HIB case, whether it was founded or not, at each board meeting from the board meeting prior to. So obviously school just began, and these are the cases that have been reported and where they have been reported from.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I think we're good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have tonight.
Okay. Okay, at this time, if there's any questions from the public on agenda items only, please come up, state your name and address, and the board will respond at the end of all questions. Lauren, got a question? Oh, got a mic. Okay, thank you. Any questions on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, moving forward. May I have a motion for the second reading of the following board policy, attendance, absences, and excuses 5113?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. Just so the public's aware, the changes in this policy, we're replacing the references to CUSAC with the New Jersey Department of Education. We are defining and clarifying the criteria and procedures for excused and unexcused absences, tardiness, truancy, late arrival, and early dismissal of students. The board would like to thank Dr. Kelly, who is our school physician, for his recommendations on the medically excused absence guidelines. Mr. Calavano.
Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Mrs. Mordecai?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartzbaum?
Yes.
Vice President Robertson?
Yes.
President Lab?
Yes. May I have a motion for personnel 1 through 5 with the addendum?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. I'd like to congratulate Mary Jo Cody on her retirement. Mary Jo is, all right. Mrs. Cody will be retiring effective July 1, 2017, and the board really does thank her very much for her service to the district. Any other comments from the board on personnel 1 through 5 and addendum?
No, thank you.
Seeing none. Mr. Calavano?
Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Mrs. Mordecai?
Yes, with 2 abstentions, Nicole McArdle and Maxine Hines-James.
Mr. Schwartzbaum?
Yes.
Vice President Robertson?
Yes.
President Lab?
Yes. May I have a motion for curriculum and instruction with the addendum 1 through 10?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
First, I would like to thank the administration very much for the recommendation for the approval of the Latino Family Literacy Project. We've actually been engaged for quite some time with the newly formed West Orange Hispanic Foundation, and the assistant superintendent and I went to their meeting this past month, and it was a wonderful experience. It really was, and I think so many of our residents are looking to become engaged with our school district, and language is a barrier, so we need to address that, and we will continue to address that, and I know you're looking forward to doing that as well. So again, I'd like to thank the administration for that recommendation. Also, where was I? I'm also very excited about the continuation of the Hangzhou Foreign Language School exchange program. My own son was in the Chinese program. It is a phenomenal program, and I'm so thankful that we have the grant to continue this program. Any other comments from the board on curriculum and instruction and addendum 1 through 10?
Madam President, I have a question for Mr. Calavano.
Sure thing, Mr. Charles.
Mr. Calavano, there are 12 teachers attending the Fall Adolescent Health Conference at various locations, but the prices range from $0 to $23.56. So I just wondering why some are $4, some are $5, some are $23. What?
That would be mileage.
Okay. Okay. That's all I have, Madam President.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Just to also comment on our Chinese program, it's not only, I don't know if people realize it's not only one of the best in the state, but potentially one of the best in the country. And right now we have, I don't know if you know Sarah Wardles, is over in NYU, China, in an immersion program that also combines sciences. She was in our IMS program along with business, and then while there, got into a Princeton immersion program. I just want to say our Chinese program, as well as IMS, prepare our children well for future success.
I think I saw Miss Lee Lauscher here someplace. She was my son's teacher, phenomenal teacher. And again, very excited that we're continuing this program.
Totally.
Mr. Schwartzman, you got anything?
No.
Okay. Mr. Calavano.
Mr. Charles?
I have one thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One second.
Go ahead. Didn't see you back there.
Yeah, I just have one comment. I also attended the Hispanic Heritage Night as well, and I know out of that meeting we got some feedback from the community that there, in some schools, the materials aren't being translated. Would you have an update on that, Mr.?
What do you mean not being translated?
like letters home to parents or anything like that translated?
No,
I believe it
every
was-
letter that goes home is a translated letter, anything. We make sure it's in Spanish.
Okay.
And we put the, again, if it goes on the website, we put both on the website.
Okay.
Just to make sure. That's something we can look into if it's maybe going home at the building level, you know, like from a principal or something, it's only going in English, then we can talk about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Calavano?
I am going to abstain on the reimbursement or the annual fee for the New Jersey School Board Association. Everything else, yes.
Mrs. Mordecai?
I'm also going to be abstaining on that amount as well, as we're all going to a school board convention for 3 days.
Mrs. Schwartzbaum?
I'll abstain from reimbursing myself, and I'm okay with everything else.
Vice President Robertson?
Yes.
And President Lab?
Abstention as well, and yes on everything else. Okay, may I have a motion for Finance, Special Services 1 through 5, and Business Office 1 through 12?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartzbaum. Mr. Calavano, could you go into some explanation regarding Business Office number 10 as it relates to ACES?
To rescind the membership in ACES regarding the purchase of natural gas. We belong to a consortium right now with other districts, and the consortium goes out for a natural gas rate. We felt over the past years we could have done a better job ourselves getting a better rate. So we're working with EMEX actually tomorrow to have a reverse auction, and we believe the rates we can receive, or we will receive, will be less than the ACES group will achieve for their membership.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Calavano. Any other questions or comments from the board on finance items?
I just have another quick comment.
Go ahead.
I have one.
Okay.
Mr. Calvano, real quick math, it looks like there's about $281,000 of unbudgeted money for the out-of-district placement. So I know we approved some other non-budgeted items. So I guess my question is, are we getting close to maxing out that line item as far as where the budget goes?
We're getting close, and if we exceed the line item, you'll see a transfer at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
But on that same note, we are also now bringing in $230,000 from
Tuition revenue.
As a receiving.
tuition.
Yeah.
So we have a net for 50,000.
Comes in.
But we actually anticipate that as a revenue, so that's not
Okay.
really,
So this
you know,
is not
it
news.
wouldn't- Yeah.
Okay, just reflected in the agenda. Mr. Schwartzbaum?
I was going to reiterate what Mr. Charles said, that this approximately $281,000 of unbudgeted. What I would suggest is, as we go through, that we go within the budget and see where there are areas that we can reallocate.
Any other comments on finance items?
I just have one comment. I am happy to see that we are again partnering with Montclair State College for the Center for Autism and Early Childhood Mental Health. Thank you for maintaining that. It's a great program.
Thanks, Ms. Salvino. Mr. Calavano?
Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Mrs. Mordecai?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartzbaum?
Yes.
Vice President Robertson?
Yes.
President Lab?
Yes. Okay, may I have a motion for letter D reports, items 1 and 2?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
None.
No.
Mr. Calavano?
Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Mrs. Mordecai?
Yes.
Mrs. Schwartzbaum?
Yes.
Vice President Robertson?
Yes.
President Lab?
Yes. Okay, reports from board presidents and board members. First, many of us attended last Sunday, a week ago Sunday, the Walk for Nikhil. Sanjita and Sunil Badlani, their strength is amazing. And again, to continue this 6 years strong, I want to thank the members of the community who came out for this. It's just heartbreaking and touching all at the same time. On a lighter note, I would just like to acknowledge that I have been asked once again to represent many districts at this point and participate in the New Jersey School Board Association Special Education Committee. There are 10 of us representing 533 school districts, and it is an honor to be asked and to continue to serve in this capacity. Ms. Mordecai, got anything for us tonight?
I also attended, and yes, it was a very good Sunday morning, quite early. But it's a pleasure every year to see so many people turn out to support the Badlanis, and I have to also commend them on their strength. I'm not sure how many people can actually turn grief into something that's benefiting so many other people. It was a pleasure to be there. I have one other thing. On this Saturday, I will be representing the Essex County School Board Association as its vice president in Trenton at the association leadership meeting. So wish me well on my drive to Trenton. There's always traffic.
You have fun with that, Sam.
6 o'clock in the morning.
Yay. Mr. Charles, got anything tonight?
I have nothing at this time.
We had a good football game.
Yes, we did.
Oh, yeah.
A great football game.
That's a good thing. And FanFest, you want to talk about that at all?
And we won.
No? Okay.
We
We won.
And we
Yay.
won.
It's good to win. Mrs. Schwartzbaum?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Good luck tomorrow on the reverse auction.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be waiting for
Save
that
us some
email.
money.
Mr. Robertson?
I've just been having a ball from the pep rally to the fan fest, and just really enjoying all the enthusiasm and camaraderie among our kids. Also had the opportunity to be dunked repeatedly at the Hazel Carnival dunk tank, and enjoyed every minute of it.
I gotcha.
But I had one special moment though, where Charles, I believe it was, who was running it. He was then sitting in the dunk tank, and he said, "Yale sucks." I threw the only ball that day that did not require somebody to manually pull the lever to dunk him. And
Good times.
he goes to Princeton. That's okay.
I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to dunk you, Mr. Robertson.
I wish you had.
It was
Mrs. Lab
fun.
did, with some manual help again on the lever.
It was fun. It was fun.
Yes.
It had to be
Also,
done.
enjoyed a lot
And
of
our
folks
new
came out
principal.
for the. I'm sorry.
Our new principal was
Our new-
also the dunk tank.
I got to dunk him a few times. That was a lot of
He was
fun.
a good sport.
Oh, he's a great sport. He's a great guy. Had a big turnout at the West Orange Boys soccer fundraiser at the Oak Barrel Pub. That was a lot of fun. I mean, the place was packed and people were having a great time, and it was a great event. Did very well. And the boys earlier that day were doing the soccer boys were doing volunteer hours at ShopRite Saturday. Actually, it's Saturday and Sunday.
Bagging groceries, yeah.
Bagging at ShopRite, and that also did a great job of raising funds as well as putting on a wonderful face for us in the community. What else? Also at the Walk for Nikhil, one of the things I really find remarkable is it's become such a source of community unity. It's really something that everybody rallies around, and as much as tragedy gave birth to it, it's a truly joyful event that everyone, takes that tragedy and turns it into triumph, and it does help a lot of folks. One of the groups I met out there that I thought was very cool was Girls on the Run, and they start to introduce running to girls and do it kind of gradually. It's a social event as well as starting to run around the pond over there, et cetera. But it's
Kelly
pretty
School.
cool, and I'm thinking of taking Joelle over there to try it out. So look up Girls on the Run, and that's about it.
Okay. Our next board meeting is going to be rescheduled for October 19th, so if we could just make note of that. There were numerous conflicts for the board this coming month, so may I have a motion to have the next Board of Education meeting to be held 8 p.m. Wednesday, not Monday, Wednesday, October 19th at West Orange High School.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye, okay.
Aye, aye.
Well, anybody want to talk to us tonight? It's time for petitions
I'm
from the
willing
public.
to bet.
It's time for petitions in public from the I can't even talk right now. Please come up, state your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes. The board will respond in its entirety at the end of public comment.
Hello, my name is Eric Baines. I work
I'm
at
sorry?
Edison. I stand before you today because of the one word I teach my students to always show in life.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your name? I didn't get it.
Eric Maines.
Thank you.
I stand before you today because of the one word I teach my students to always show in life, respect. I think I know a lot about this word through my experience as a teacher. When I first began my teaching career, I worked in 2 small districts. I struggled at times but grew tremendously, earning the respect of my colleagues, students, community, and the administration. Unfortunately, the one person who did not show a considerable amount of respect to me, indirectly, was Governor Christie when he cut state aid, resulting in my position being cut. Then I had the opportunity to join the West Orange School District, and once here, I immediately felt at home. Over the past 5 years, I have enjoyed watching my students grow and mature, while also being an active part of the community through various school activities and events. In the beginning of my time here, I felt respect from everyone. Now, though, I can say with certainty that it has not felt very much at all. I am so tired of feeling a lack of respect from people. I'm tired of politicians, organizations, and other groups showing me nothing but contempt towards what I do in my profession. I'm especially tired of people saying they respect me, but not showing it through their actions. When I work all day, every day, to the best of my ability, and give my heart and soul to the students of West Orange, I think I deserve a little more respect than a reduction in my salary and a cut to health benefits. I don't think I'm the only one in this country who feels that if one works hard and goes above and beyond a job's contractual obligations every day, they deserve a reasonable pay and benefits. I also don't like that there's a rift between the teachers and Board of Ed. To me, you are all witnesses to the amazing things we do in our schools, whether you see it through your children in school now or from your children who went through the school district already. We need to work together to move our district forward in the 21st century and beyond with quality teachers who yearn to be a part of this great community, and that will only happen if they feel they will be respected by all in the community. I have been teaching for 10 years, and I plan on being a teacher for another 30. I want to dedicate all of my energy towards my students and less on fighting for respect. I thank you for listening and hope that I have earned your respect. I may only be one person, but I'm not alone.
Tony Edelstein, 50 Davy Drive. Good evening. I'm here in 3 capacities: as a resident homeowner and taxpayer, as a parent with 2 children who've gone through the West Orange Public Schools from K to 12, and as a teacher for 10 years at West Orange High School. Before becoming a teacher, I was an attorney for 18 years, but I voluntarily switched careers because I thought education would be more fulfilling. And I'm not alone. Numerous educators in this district voluntarily gave up other careers to go into education. And all of us did so expecting to be treated as professionals. We knew we were entering an historically underpaid profession, but we did so with the understanding that the secure employee benefits were a worthwhile trade-off. There was a compact. We would work for less than we could earn in the free market, but we would receive security in return. But the state changed the rules on us, requiring us to make ever-increasing contributions to our benefits. Many of us now take home less pay than we did several years ago. It's no surprise that the federal and state governments undervalue educators, but it's hurtful that our local Board of Education and central administration does so as well. Publicly, you pay lip service to the idea that educators are professionals, but your actions over the last couple of years belie that sentiment. It's especially hurtful coming from a board with 4 members whose children have attended the West Orange Public Schools. You publicly praise West Orange educators for doing an outstanding job with your children, but the actions and policies of the board and the central administration indicate that you do not regard us as professionals worthy of fair treatment. Until recently, the educators felt like partners with the board and the central administration, but over the past couple of years, the policies and treatment we have been subjected to has turned the relationship adversarial. If your goal is to weaken our union, that is short-sighted. The country's middle class thrived when unions were strong and felt respected. But as we have seen, weakening of unions leads to a declining middle class and economic insecurity. I also want to note the misinformation that the board has spread. Teachers are not refusing to write college recommendations. The staff at the high school did not boycott FanFest this past Friday and never had any intention to do so. And the board and central administration have conveniently not mentioned the numerous negotiating dates they have canceled or refused. And please understand that it is not a contradiction to say that we care about our students and that we also want to be treated as professionals with dignity and respect. And everyone in this community should demand that this board and central administration treat its educators with dignity and respect by offering us a fair contract that does not result in us making negative economic progress. I'm only one person, but I'm not alone. Thank you.
My name is Diane Koval, and I'm a second grade teacher at Hazel Avenue School. For most of my 28-year career here in West Orange, I knew I was a valued and respected professional. However, I feel this is no longer true. I am a very proud product of the West Orange School District, along with my 6 brothers and sisters, as my parents still live in town and are taxpayers. In 2013, I received my master's in counseling with school counselor certification. In the process of receiving this master's, I completed internships with a guidance counselor in district and received excellent reviews. Upon my completion of my master's, 2 full-time guidance counselors positions were posted in the spring of 2014, and I applied for both. After my application was submitted, I emailed and left voicemails many times as to the status of my application and where the department was in the hiring process. I never received any communication back. I was then notified by a fellow colleague that interviewing was in fact taking place for one of the positions at the school she was at. So I followed up again with another email and another phone call to the head of the guidance department, never receiving any communication back. I don't know what made her finally send me an email with a very blanket statement. No, dear Diane, nothing. It just was, quote, applications have been reviewed and final interviews will be conducted tomorrow. In addition, just recently in the spring, there was a replacement guidance counselor hired on a per diem basis with no benefits. And magically, that position became a full-time tenure-track guidance position this fall, having never been posted. So of course, I did not even get a chance to apply for it. So I missed the opportunity to be considered and further my career in that area, and so did every other teacher in town with a guidance certificate. Basically, just being ignored. Now I'm just going to revisit my initial point that I no longer feel I am valued and respected professionally. Okay? The application and interviewing process left me feeling worse than an outsider applying for a position. I felt ignored. No one should ever feel ignored. The lack of communication and respectful treatment of a 28-year veteran is absolutely appalling. With that, it is my hope that by speaking out tonight, this does not result in any retaliation. I am only one person, but I am not alone.
My name is Denise Macri-Wurzen. I've been proud to serve as a nurse in West Orange High School for the past 5 years and was a West Orange resident for 22 years. I'm completing my doctorate in public health and bring my best to all our students on an every single day basis. I can personally attest to the fact that the morale is low at an all-time low in the district. Teachers feel as if central administration has no regard whatsoever for them in a professional manner or as human beings. In a professional sense, we live with top-down decisions, thinking that often seems to have no consideration for what goes on in the classroom or the nurse's office. Expert teachers should be a significant part of the decision-making process so that those who are in the trenches and see what works can contribute to the conversation. Mostly, however, we are afterthoughts, dealing with directives from those who often have never been in our shoes. We volunteer so much and do so much. Instead of being thanked, we feel that the central office just expects more. In a personal sense, we have seen central office demand that staff members suffering from life-threatening illnesses being called to defend their absences, even when the building administration has been fully aware of the serious illness and the reason for their absence. As a nurse, I can tell you, because of the intimidation of staff, I have regularly seen in my office those who were so ill that they should be out of work but come to work anyway, afraid of any kind of retribution to use their sick days. This is not healthy for them or for the students and the remaining of the staff. The lack of The lack of contract and the shrinking take-home pay are serious problems, of course, but they are really secondary to the biggest obstacles we face: poor morale due to a lack of respectful treatment. We need serious change here in West Orange. We hope this board will set to make these things right and make the changes lasting. I am only one person, but I am not alone. I trust I will not be retaliated against for speaking my mind.
Good evening. I appreciate this opportunity to express myself. I have worked in West Orange.
I'm sorry, could you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
My name is Phyllis Seibert. I work at Hazel Avenue School. I have worked in the district for 13 years, 10 years as a third grade teacher, and this is my third year as a kindergarten teacher. I teach my children, and I consider them my children. They're my students. That the first 4 letters in the word kindergarten is the word kind. I don't just teach them how to read, and I have 18 students this year that I will be teaching how to read. This is the foundation where it all starts, even though there are no more aides in my Title I kindergarten class. I care about these children as if they were my own. I value them, I support them, and it is my privilege to make each one of them feel special. I feel that the most important job, other than being a surgeon who performs life-saving operations, or perhaps someone who is working to find the cure for cancer, that the most important job is to be a teacher. It's teachers that create the hope for the future. The children can't do it without us. I'm not speaking about myself personally, but just of the profession. It's not really a respected profession, and yet the world cannot go forth without teachers. Teachers are the foundation of each child's success, and it is a privilege to be employed in this way and to try to make a difference in a child's life. The value and support that I give each one of these little kids, I am just asking if the teachers in West Orange could feel just a little bit supported and a little bit valued. Just a little, because we're not feeling it at all. And the last thing I wanted to say was that I know that you are worried about the taxes for the people that live in this town. The value of the homes is really based on how good the school is. We have a wonderful school district.
Ms. Seibert, we have time on the line.
Okay. Please support us.
Thank you.
Okay. I am only one person, but I am definitely not alone.
Hello. My name is Alan Reeder, and I've been a West Orange teacher for 2 decades. It has been 8 years since the severe economic downturn was first used as a cudgel to tamp down teacher salaries and benefits. And over the past 5 years, West Orange teachers have witnessed a substantial reduction in take-home pay. For a time, most of us understood and accepted that this was driven by state legislation and a political climate that demonized teachers and used public employees as convenient scapegoats for years of bipartisan budgetary recklessness. We have for years paid a steep price for state-level negligence, and it is wrong for this board and this superintendent to pile on additional hardship. Some suggest that public school teachers need to lower expectations. I reject this notion outright. My expectations as an experienced, master's educated professional are far from unreasonable. Because I worked 10 full-time years as a maintenance mechanic, I was able to complete my undergraduate and graduate education and gain a teaching certificate with only $10,000 in student loan debt. Many of the people behind me owe significantly more. What were their expectations? To indebt themselves to a career they love only to find themselves unable to make ends meet. I live with my wife and sons in a 2-bedroom house in middle-class Bloomfield, New Jersey. I drive a used car. I set my heat at 65. My wife works 6 days a week and has no vacation time, and has done so for years, and we are simply not making it. I am presently seeking evening employment. How will the students of West Orange benefit by having their teachers drive 5 hours for Uber every night? Enough is enough, and furthermore, fair is fair. We have worked in good faith for over a year. This board and this superintendent have the power and the money to resolve this and must do so now. I'm only one person, but I am not alone.
My name is Mark Maniscalco, and I'm with the people in red. We're fighting for respect. We're here because our staff morale is at an all-time low and because people feel disrespected professionally and personally. We're here because we remember not so long ago when it was quite different here. Things must change, and they must change soon. Earlier this year, our tenured staff decided, building by building, that we needed to take action to make the public more aware of our situation. As you know, at every single school, teachers and staff volunteer for evening and weekend events, including literacy nights, math nights, concerts, car washes, festivals, cultural nights, open houses, high school graduation, college nights, art shows, parades, and plenty more. And of course, back to school night. All of this is volunteer work for the vast majority who attend. None of it is in our contract. We do it for the students and their parents. We do it out of love. We do it for our town. This is who teachers are. We give and we give. Sometimes when you give and give, however, you're taken for granted. Sometimes in order to be respected, you must demand it. Sometimes you have to act and take uncomfortable stances. This year, the tenured teachers decided after much deliberation that we would not volunteer at Back to School Night. The staff wanted to be there and stands willing to reschedule if progress can be made. But they made this collective decision. We made this collective decision to highlight our struggle. We thank the parents for the strong support they've shown us. Last year, the BOE heard us talk of morale and appeared to be surprised at the negativity and promised to work to rectify the situation. This year, the board cannot claim to be unaware of the sense of disrespect felt by the staff and of the truly awful morale. You promised to work to make things better, but words are only words. Last year, a teacher told you that she was docked a day's pay because a snowstorm forced a canceled flight. She was publicly assured by some on this board that this would be addressed. It wasn't. This is not a sign of respect. Jobs that represent upward or even lateral professional movement have been largely awarded to outsiders. In at least one case, a job that would have drawn multiple qualified internal applicants was not even posted, so our long-term employees didn't have the opportunity to apply. That's disrespectful. Many teachers have seen their take-home salary stagnate or diminish, and then they read public statements by the board that the level of refund taken from their pay is currently required by law. It is not. The board can negotiate down to 1.5%. That is a fact. That is a fact, and to say otherwise is untruthful and disrespectful. We read board statements focus on scheduling conflicts during negotiations as if this was addressing substantial problems and differences. This attempt to mislead by misdirection is disrespectful and even contemptuous of the staff and our parent partners. We are not unrealistic. We did not become teachers to get rich, but we do expect fair compensation and good health benefits. We don't expect shrinking take-home pay year after year. The board has the power to make it stop. Do you respect the staff enough to do it? We hope so. People move into West Orange because of our excellent schools. Our property values are increasing, and that's a direct reflection of the real quality of our schools. And you don't get great schools, and believe me, our schools are great, without great and incredibly dedicated people. Those here tonight and those home planning lessons and grading papers tonight deserve respect. Offering a fair contract with strong benefits and, yes, a modest raise is a sign of respect. Anything less will be seen for what it is. I am only one person, but I am quite obviously not alone.
Hi, my name is Divya Anand. I'm the drum major of my marching band and a member of the senior class, and teachers have been a huge part of my life for a long time now. So as a student, I see the necessity for teachers to have the employment terms that they not want, but they need. Education is the creation of the future, and my teachers are actively shaping the world of tomorrow. There are few occupations that are more valuable than teaching. My teachers also work harder than any people that I know. My teachers are very beloved to me, and they made me into a person who wants to do great things like the things that they're doing. And I find that the divide between the West Orange Education Association and the Board of Education is directly impacting me as a student. Our education system right now is unable to function as a system, and the fact that teachers are not working under conditions that they deserve is unacceptable. It should be unacceptable to anybody who's aware of it. Most of us enjoy the privilege of knowing our rights in our school and work environments. My learning experience is limited by my teachers' rights being limited. I, along with the rest of the student body, cannot get the optimum opportunity to succeed in an education system that's not working as a cohesive unit, in which my teachers are not satisfied. Please support them. They mean the world.
Hi, everyone. My name is Derek Lim, and I'm the valedictorian of the senior class of West Orange High School this year. My classes these past 2 years have been only AP classes except for gym class, so I took the classes with the most workload, and I have to pay attention to the dynamics of each of these classes in order to succeed in my AP exams, my grades, just to pay attention to how each class works, since there's so many different variables that go into learning each subject. And I feel that there's definitely a problem with the general antipathy that comes from the treatment of the teachers by the administration in general. But I really don't want to show examples from any of my specific teachers that may be targeted or so, but there's a good example from my cross-country coach, who I talk to 6 days a week, a couple hours every week as captain of the cross-country team. He's a teacher in the Montclair School District who, as everyone here should know, is facing a very similar power struggle. And they also have unions from the teachers that are facing similar contract issues. And sorry, I'm kind of nervous. Yeah, but he articulated it really well. He showed that there's a balance between in the work and life, and in his particular case, he has to balance teaching, coaching, which furthers his life love of running. He's been running since high school and college, so that's a really important part of his life that he can't take time away from to be focused on any other things. Also, he has personal time, family time, recreation like everyone else. So I think that this union is justified because in the last few years, there's no help in the life of teachers due to lowered financial help, and this leads to stress in life and inability to focus on work, helping our students. And there's really no life comfort in the requirement for side jobs or really just reducing any other free time you have to teach. And that's why I think that all this teacher union activities are really justified. And I also want to add something from my culture, the Chinese culture. There's a really romantic idea that I learned this summer of going to America for college and teaching. My cousin, he's the same age as me, he lives with me. He came here and he used the support of his teachers to start learning English and starting his new life here because there were so many restrictions in China, especially in Beijing, where he used to live. He got drafted into a terrible high school. There's nothing he could do. Only the government could really determine his future. And his mom, my aunt, who I also got very close to this summer, is a very successful businesswoman in China. And she told me about her wishes to, just like these really romantic ideals
Derek, I'm sorry, we have a 3-minute limit, and there's a timeline behind you. So if you could just kind of wrap it up a little bit, hon.
So basically, the romantic ideal, which my aunt showed, is she just wants to come here to obtain a doctorate in any of the American colleges, and that's what I think that should be revived in America. Instead of having teachers having these terrible conditions, they should be able to like live out their dreams of helping students and just teaching, helping the community, just to accelerate the education of my community in West Orange. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Okay.
Hi. I'm Jessica Jacobs, 15 Stephen Terrace. I come to you tonight to read a letter written by Kerry Connolly. Unfortunately, she cannot be here tonight, but she does reflect the sentiment of many parents in the West Orange School District. She writes, September 12th, 2016, to the West Orange Board of Education and Superintendent Rutsky. As a parent of 2 children in the West Orange School District, I am extremely dismayed by the administration's inability to come to a reasonable agreement with our amazing teachers. There is no denying that the schools in West Orange are top-notch. Since my children started as anxious kindergartens to our most recent foray into Central 6, they have blossomed into confident, hardworking, and caring young people who love to learn. This is due in no small part to their teachers. The staff has taught my children over the past 9 years collectively have been inspirational, caring, and talented. They have exposed my children to artists with disabilities to demonstrate that no limitation needs to keep them grounded. They have held their hands while they cried on the first day of kindergarten and released them on the last day with newfound confidence and abilities. They have ignited a passion in my kids for subjects like science and reading, art and history. They have gotten to know my children's foibles and talents, their moods, their weaknesses, and have encouraged them through the rough spots and bright ones alike. Do not underestimate how much that means to us as parents. Our teachers are on the front lines when it comes to our children's education. It is sickening to hear of the way that they are being treated like corporate cattle in a data-driven pen with no human value whatsoever. What happened to our town? This is not the way West Orange works. Any good leader knows that it is the people you lead that are your greatest and most valuable asset, and yet this administration seems to place very little worth on the very asset that makes the educational machine run, its teachers. As a property owner and parent who pays the taxes that feed your budget, I take issue with this serious issue. I stand with the teachers of West Orange. I demand as a parent, a voter, and a taxpayer in this town that you do the hard work you were appointed to do and demonstrate your appreciation of our teachers, not with words, which are easy to type into an email or a letter, but with action. Revise whatever operational policy is causing teachers with excellent attendance records to be docked a day's pay when they are stuck out of state because a massive snowstorm causes 700 flights to be canceled, or when, God forbid, a woman wants to attend her husband's funeral. Stop bullying our teachers into silence. They know what our kids need in the classroom better than anybody, and it's their voices I want to hear when deciding on district policy. Dig a little deeper into the budget to find places to cut costs so that teachers no longer get paid less money each year. Honor your commitments to the teachers who have served our children and are now in their retirement. Go on the hunt for a benefits program that actually provided benefits. Do the hard work of negotiation so that the teachers don't lose even more money. Treat this as the emergency that it is. You've dug your feet in and caused this to drag on long enough. My daughter, now at Central 6.
Ms. Jacobs, time, please.
Sorry. Just know, teachers, you are not alone.
Adam Kramer, 20 Moran Road, West Orange. As you know, I've been a frequent critic of this board. In fact, Ms. Mordecai, Mr. Charles, and Ms. Lab defeated me in Board of Ed elections. And I know all the people up on the dais, although Mr. Calavano not so well. I think it's safe to say that I've had my disagreements on policy with every one of you. But I think I can say that all of you respect educators and value education. I want to talk to the teachers. What I say may not be popular, but it's accurate. I think you're good. I think you work hard. I think what you do has a lot of value. But I think this community does value you. This community pays over 2% of the real value of their homes every year in school taxes. The state of New Jersey, with over 30% of what the people in West Orange and everybody else pays in this state, goes back to public schools. That's a lot of commitment. I looked at your contract. The starting salary for a teacher right out of college, zero additional graduate school credits, 0 years teaching, is $51,862. That's pretty good compensation. It goes up to, at the top of the scale, with 14 years and a doctorate, $112,000 plus. Your health care is good. I've compared it to your brethren in Livingston who are part of the state plan, which is not so generous. I've talked to a lot of teachers in Livingston and board members. They may not love their health plan, but they think it's good coverage at a reasonable price to the taxpayers. I think there's two sides to this argument. We support you as a community. We value what you do, but it's not because we don't want to pay you more or don't want you to have economic success. The money's not there. There's not a money tree in Trenton or in West Orange to pay you more. I wish we could, but I think taxpayers are taxed to the max, and this is the best we could do. And I think there has to be some realization of that. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Redwine. I have 4 children in the West Orange schools. I'm at 10 Cobain Terrace. I have a student at Roosevelt and 3 at Gregory. We moved here in 2004 really because of the schools. And I know that my teachers are not being respected because I believe them, because I've seen what they've done for my kids day in and day out. My husband and I both work. We work really hard. We don't work as hard as my kids' teachers, I can tell you that right now. And my kids have been in the West Orange school system since 2009, and the change I've seen in the climate has been really, really unfortunate. And I gotta say, if this continues, I hope our property values stay up, because this is the kind of thing that can impact that. And, you know, that's not gonna help the situation either. So I moved here for the schools. I've loved the schools. I have been so impressed with my children's teachers and the hard work they've done. And I'm just really disappointed to hear the way that they honestly feel about your treatment of them. And I hope that you can find a way to make a change. I also have to say it's frustrating to have been to a lot of these meetings and heard people like me say this over and over again and not see the change. So I don't know what else to say. I just want to express my appreciation for the teachers and my hope that you'll hear the parents, hear the teachers, and there has to be a way to treat them better. Those salaries that Mr. Kramer mentioned don't sound that impressive to me. It sounds like they should be making more. I just have to be honest with you for the work that they do.
Jennifer Beezer, 82 Lawrence Avenue. I have a son here at West Orange High School and a daughter at Edison. There's been a lot of focus on the contract, but based on what I saw and heard here in this room at the April 25th Board of Education meeting, and on the statements recently issued by the West Orange Education Association, while crucially important, the contract is merely a symptom of a larger problem. Our teachers feel disrespected, unsupported, and marginalized by the district. After hearing the issues detailed by the teachers at the April 25th meeting and witnessing the extent and depth of those issues as demonstrated by the rows and rows of teachers dressed in red, I wrote to the board members the following day. And I think that resonated with me because as a parent, unfortunately, I have started to feel similar in some respects. And just briefly, one example of that is this new attendance policy that uses smallpox as an example of an illness that would be justified for a medical excuse and characterizes anxiety and depression as vague chronic psychiatric diagnoses. I would suggest that they are much more than that. The toll they take on students and families is much more than that. But getting back to the teachers. As it seems that the atmosphere within the district has not changed, and because I don't have a better way to express how I feel about it, I will read from my letter tonight and again call on the board members to act. I have not yet had the time to fully digest all that was said last night or to compose something that adequately describes my feelings and concerns, as a taxpayer and a parent upon leaving the meeting. I have a son in 9th grade at West Orange High School and a daughter in 5th at Gregory. Of course, I've had many opportunities to meet with the talented and dedicated Gregory teachers. I believe I've also had the occasion to meet with every single teacher my son has had at Edison, Roosevelt, and now West Orange High School. Over and over, I've been impressed with, sometimes downright blown away by, the professionalism, creativity, and caring these teachers have shown, going above and beyond, inside and outside the box, to help my children, both as students and as people. It breaks my heart to hear confirmed what I have feared, that our teachers are hamstrung by obsessive data collection requirements and intrusive procedures, and that they feel marginalized by the district. It also makes me angry because I have witnessed the energy, enthusiasm, and skill these individuals bring to their jobs, gifts that should be focused on the education of our children rather than squandered on administrative tasks in the false service of accountability. My children are not numbers. Please continue your leadership by looking openly and honestly at what is working and what's not working in the running of our schools. Please ensure that the input of our teachers, the education professionals who know our children best, is consistently sought, accepted, and valued in the district's decision-making process. Please do not allow the peremptory dismissal of valid concerns expressed by teachers, parents, or students with the specious and patronizing explanation that they are merely afraid of or resistant to change.
Okay, Ms. Beezer, I'm sorry, the clock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sue Freeveld, 10 Ridgeview Avenue. I addressed this to the board. Some of you I have known for a while, and I respect all of you, some more than others. But I addressed the board. Mr. Kramer's right. There are two sides to every story, and we've seen you guys exchanging sides in your various public statements. And I think the essence of what the board wants us to believe is that there are facts that we don't know, and that we should believe you guys that there's more going on, and that what they're saying is misleading. The problem is you guys don't have that credibility anymore. Normally, I'd be advocating for people to avoid jumping to conclusions without all the facts. But a lot of us do come up here, and we bring you concerns. I've recently brought up concerns about observations. We went from Mr. Rutsky admitting that he was denying spec ed parents from coming in because he didn't think strangers, by which he meant parents, should be coming into these classrooms. And at the last meeting, he said that he has not denied things and there are no violations, and essentially went against not only his own statements, but against the statements of parents who came up before you and told you exactly what happened. And none of you delved. None of you challenged it. None of you asked questions. We get 3 minutes, we go back, we sit down in our seats, and we listen to the non-answers. We listen to the misleading answers. We listen to the false information put out. And we watch you guys not delve. More often than not, you sit there silently. So now, somehow, you want us to believe that what they are saying is misinformation, but we've watched you week after week, month after month, superintendent after superintendent, allow false information to stand without challenging it, without asking questions. You don't have a 3-minute time limit. You're up there, you're board members, your obligation is to oversee. Your obligation is to ask those questions when our time is run out. You don't do that. Sometimes you help, most of the times you stay silent. So I'm sorry, when you show so little respect to the public, that you don't respond to their concerns, that you don't delve, that you don't ask questions, then why should we believe you when you say trust us? The real story is not what you're hearing. Why should we re-elect you, for that matter? We don't trust you. So if you show us so little respect that you will let that happen right in front of you, you want us to believe that they are not to be trusted. I'm sorry, we don't trust them, and because we don't trust you, and because of that, they are definitely not alone. Thank you.
Good evening, Marcia Dukes, 1 Clearview Terrace, West Orange. I have 3 kids in the district, and very important years for my 3 children. One is a senior, high school, important year for her. Another is in 6th grade, transition, important year for him. The last one is in 5th grade, huge for him. I'm here to ask the board, what is the plan to move this forward? I need a solution. I've heard from everyone, but I've not heard what the plan is and how fast we can get a solution. Thank you.
Hi guys, Megan Brill, 1 Oakhurst Road. As most of you know, I'm a former board member, and I sit here and I think I wish I was one of you 5, and I'm glad I'm not one of you 5. I understand the position that we're all in, and as a taxpayer, I understand. I think that everybody understands that we've been without a contract for a year, but that's not unprecedented. We've gone without a contract almost every time. We wait almost 2 years before we can actually cut a deal. What's different, I guess, this year is the unprecedented amount of money that the teachers have to pay towards their benefits. And what I understand about being on the board and what I've read in the Chronicle on both sides and in speaking with staff members and teachers and board members, the gap between the two sides is great. And while everyone is demanding cut a deal, get back to normal, I caution you to be careful with that, because I know that cutting a deal either means we're raising taxes substantially on citizens that can't afford it, or we're going to cut programs in order to cut a deal that the staff can be happy with. And those programs, I know, are the stuff that makes West Orange what we are. After school busing, half-day kindergarten can come back. South Orange and Maplewood, the year that they were going to add full-day kindergarten was when Christie made all those cuts, and they went back to, it's not even half-day kindergarten, it's 2-hour kindergarten. I know the stuff that's on the chopping block in order to try to cut a deal. So as hard as it is, and the culture in the buildings, I get all that, but I caution you to be careful with the decisions that you have to make, because they're great. The other thing about salary and benefits is that I know we have to lump the two together, because what everyone cares about is the net amount in your paycheck, and I understand that. But we've always given, 2% raises, 1.5% raises, decent raises in every contract that we've had for almost every year. I think last time it was 0. It was a flat raise and then increase over 3 years. What happens now is that the amount that everyone has to pay towards their benefit is so great that we're lumping them together. And I would appreciate knowing what the increase is that the staff is getting, and then what the benefit costs us. I think that might help us understand that we're not telling the teachers that we don't respect them and that we're not giving them a raise. It's that when we have to lump it in with the healthcare costs that we all have to pay, that it ends up looking like a net decrease, and it's not really. So I love West Orange. I love our staff. I'm sorry that we're at this impasse. I understand it, and my time is out. Thank you, guys.
Tonio, Tonio, Favetta, Favetta.
Got it.
Got it? All right. I am a teacher, but I'm not here as a teacher. I'm here as a parent and a taxpayer. Anna, could you stand up for a second? I know you're on 1 foot because you injured yourself at cross country, but could you? My daughter Anna is here tonight to, thank you, to write for an article for the school newspaper. She's a tremendous student, has AP and honors classes, and a tremendous athlete, 3-season runner. My younger daughter, who could not be here tonight, she's home doing homework, is in the 9th grade, also both here at West Orange High School. I'm proud of my kids, as I'm sure all parents are, but I also know that my kids would not be my kids if they did not attend the West Orange Public Schools for their entire academic career since kindergarten. They have been dramatically shaped for the better by their experiences with this amazing staff. Some of the people who are right in this room, if you've ever had my kids, could you just wave for a second? Let them know. Many of them are here. Some of them have them right now. So, sort of in response to what Ms. Brill said, and I support Ms. Brill, and we've been friends for a long time, yes, I'd caution you too, as you make these decisions, to understand that there's more to this at stake than dollars and cents. There's more to this than property values. There are the lives of young people, and who are we going to get to shape those young people? My kids are with their teachers a heck of a lot more than they are with me. We can't afford to say, well, we'll just go bargain basement and get anybody that can fly through here, and as soon as they get too expensive, we'll kick them out. That is not the way to build a community. That is not the way to build character. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public this evening? Seeing none. Mr. Rutsky, did you want to?
Sure. I think there's really a lot of very fine comments made. And the one thing that is clear to me over the last month or two is that we are not looking like the district that we are. And the idea of going back and forth and making the district look like we are disjointed is very difficult to recover from. And while we all need to understand that negotiations are a process and they are very hard, and the idea that the board does not want to give you what you deserve, no matter what the amount is, no matter what the categories we're talking about, is untrue. But what I can sit here and I can respond to each one of these, but I don't want to do that because that's not what we need to do. We need to figure out a way to move forward. And we need to figure out a way that people outside of West Orange who know nothing about West Orange are not thinking the wrong things about West Orange, because that's what they're doing. And you have to justify that, no, it's just the process. And what's hard with negotiations is they become emotional and they become personal, and they can't become personal. And I know it feels personal, but those that sit outside of West Orange and they think West Orange is phenomenal, and now they're watching this, they don't understand what we're trying to do. So I could respond to all kinds of things. Mr. Manns said it wonderfully. Maine, excuse me, said it wonderfully in that the respect piece, the idea that the governor did all kinds of things 7 years ago, we're still rattling from that. And the piece that, I talked to Mr. Maniscalco after the last budget meeting and said, come on in, let's sit down and talk about things. The door's open. And it doesn't mean that we're going to agree on things. It means the door's open and we can sit down and move forward and do what needs to be done. You also have to realize that I listen to teachers all the time. I meet with teachers once a week, different levels of teachers, when we're talking about things. And the idea is that they're not really interested in sharing that they had a conversation with me, because they're not. And I don't care whether they do or not. My point is that I listen to them all the time. And there's certain individuals that indicate, well,
he won't meet with me. That's not true. That's not true at all. In fact, that's the last thing that's true. What is important is there's been some change, some recent change, and that's only because of listening to people, teachers in particular, but also administrators who used to be teachers, because they bring a very clear perspective and very helpful perspective. So one, for instance, is Steve Olszewski, phenomenal teacher in this building. And when I'm making decisions about things, I'll go to Steve and I'll say, Steve, put your teacher hat on for a minute. What do you think? Now put your administrative hat on for a minute. What do you think? And if there's a difference, if there's a disconnect, it gives me an opportunity to rethink things. So again, I'm not going to stand here and defend things and so on and so forth. I can tell you I've been in negotiations from a teacher, a building administrator, and obviously a superintendent, and morale goes up immediately when contracts get signed. But what I'm trying to say to you, and I'm not sure where Mark is right now, but the idea is that my door's wide open, and there's never been a time that I'm not willing to sit down. It does not mean we're going to agree to everything, but I'm certainly willing to sit down, listen to the conversations, and have productive conversations, because all I know right now is there are people that know nothing about West Orange, know nothing about how great the school system is, but they're talking in a way that we don't want them to be talking about. And it has nothing to do with, wow, see if the teachers are doing, how terrible the board is, all that. Nothing to do with that. They're seeing the disconnect, and that's not productive for us or healthy for us. And I'll close on that all negotiations get settled, all of them. And we just have to work the process. And I'm looking forward to the 10th of October. That's our next session, and seeing what we can get done. So I'm not going to comment any more on that. You understand where I'm coming from, Mark. You know you can come in and see me anytime. We'll be glad to talk about things, and then we go from there.
Thank you,
Ms.
Mr.
Lab.
Zareski. First, I don't know if the students are still here. Divya and Derek, I'd like to thank them both for coming in. Having students get involved in local government is wonderful, just as somebody who is involved in local government. It's good to see our kids engaged. Now I would like to read a statement from the board to the audience this evening, which clearly teachers, parents, and administration. And actually, some of this was touched on by a couple of the members, so again, here you go. What is happening in West Orange is not unique to other negotiations being played out across New Jersey. The individual boards and teachers are pawns of much bigger forces, and ultimately, and unfortunately, we, the foot soldiers, are the collateral damage. What we are experiencing here is a simultaneous combustion of literally a perfect storm, and nothing happens in a vacuum. As of 2011, we were capped at a 2% increase. Due to the national crisis of ridiculously escalating health costs, where drug companies can attempt to justify an increase of $400 to $800 for EpiPens overnight, it is not surprising that the insurance companies adjust their rates accordingly to compensate for drug company increases. Insurance rates average between 10 to 14% a year. We were proactive this year. We shopped for a new broker of record, and thereby we had an increase of 8% this year, saving an annual cost of $800,000. Our budget is an annual document. However, the life of a contract can be up to 5 years. Boards of education must be cautious in crafting realistic budgets and contracts. Other outside forces that have clearly impacted this and other contracts across the state is the nonstop banter between the governor's office and the NJEA. Vilifying teachers as a scapegoat for years of mishandling the pension fund serves no good for anyone. Just last week, I had gone to the governor's fairness funding formula discussion in Hanover. He was still beating up on the teachers. I was there to ask a question literally about funding, and this guy was just going off on teachers. It has to stop. Additionally, though, and alternatively, the NJEA's constant lobbying and bombardment through television and newspaper ads, Facebook postings, or planes flying overhead while you're laying at the beach in the summer attacking the governor in retaliation is also non-productive and only escalates the situation. What we hear in West Orange, I've heard in many other communities trying to negotiate. Flat or lowered pay, more work commitments, low morale. This is happening across the state. Toms River, Jefferson Township, the list goes on and on. We talk about the value and the phrase 21st century learning, but it is not an abstract ideology with no repercussions. Along with 21st century learning comes 21st century add-ons, never-ending professional development, park testing, recording SGOs, new software for lesson plans and IEPs. The TEACH Act of New Jersey also carries more burdens upon the individual teacher as well as the administration in the scheduling of pre- and post-observations, preparing for observations, observations themselves, and the constant areas of concern where one administrator may feel one way while a teacher or another administrator comes from a totally different vantage point. Pressure. There is constant pressure. Now throw into this the sunset of Chapter 78. Again, when the last contract was ratified, this was not an area for discussion. It was a law enacted pure and simple. Now that the law has sunset, ultimately what the legislature did was throw a time bomb into the negotiations process. Even though it was limited to 4 years, they knew boards would need to hold the line and the union would seek relief. Then, putting out the non-starter that after the sunset the minimum requirement is 1.5%, who was the legislature kidding? This is not sustainable or feasible. Another bomb thrown into the mix. My take is that the legislature knew that the time was right for contribution to health care, but most likely the legislation would not have passed without the sunset. What did they realistically think was going to happen? There is only a certain amount of money. When parents say, give them what they want, we love our teachers, but do you really know at what price that might be? We have a finite amount of money. The only options as a board have would be to cut extracurricular activities, courtesy busing, and staffing not required by the Department of Education. Up until a few years ago, there was no cap and there were no required contributions to the health care that cost, in our case, over $13 million annually for the association members alone. As we negotiate now, we know what is looming. It will be the Cadillac tax to be instituted in 2020. That can was kicked down the proverbial road once again. Boards were given a 2% cap. Insurance escalates at 10 to 14% annually. The only rational expectation was that we, the foot soldiers, were going to argue and protect the interests of our own respective constituents. This is not insurmountable. We can do this. When statements are posted that the board doesn't value our educators, nothing could be further from the truth. We are elected volunteers who, because of our appreciation and support of public education, put in countless hours, years at a time, and unlike any other elected body in New Jersey, we do this without any compensation whatsoever. I personally have been involved in the district in one capacity or another now for 19 years. When I started out, and therapists came to me saying they were holding therapies in stairwells and hallways, who heard them and made sure that things were changed? When teachers came to me and asked me to visit their classrooms that were accessed through a boiler room, I advocated. When therapists came to me and said their caseloads were too big and they were unable to service their students, I reacted. When I was told that the self-contained teachers were given a whopping $25 for supplementals for their classrooms for the year, I engaged. Of course, we value and appreciate our teachers. On a personal note, my own son is now in his senior year at FDU as a triple major studying theater, secondary education, and history, preparing to enter graduate school next year. Why? Because of the excellent role models he was introduced to during his years in school. He wants to be a high school social studies teacher. He fell in love with learning, and that is because some of you who may be here tonight, Mr. Figueredo, Mr. Alcindor, Mrs. Manning, Ms. Stewart, Ms. Kellerer, Ms. Martino, are wholly responsible for that. My other son thrived because of educators like Tara Capra, Stacy Forte, Paul Atzma, Jay Wecht, Mike Wenson, Lori Bellata, Mary Jo Cody, Ms. Nardone, and Ms. Rudd. I owe all of them for helping to prepare him for the future. The association put out in one of their missives the phrase, "Enough is enough." I could not agree more. Enough is enough. Calling the board negotiation team weasels or responding with liar, liar, pants on fire, is that really the best way for adults to negotiate and come to a consensus? This is not an unusual amount of time to be in negotiations, but the difference here are the outside forces that have become relevant, as I've noted before. I remember the red shirts from contracts in the past. That's not new. But the contributions to the health care, the nonstop rhetoric from Trenton, and the 2% cap, those are what's new. We've been in negotiations with 3 other unions, one of which has already been settled. The relationship between the remaining 2 parties certainly has not degenerated into name-calling. We are continuing to work together to come to a realistic and agreeable solution for all parties. In the art of negotiations, nobody walks away from the table happy. It's called give and take. And with the stakes so high here, we need to get back to the table, stop the nonsense, and come to a consensus that is reasonable, rational, and realistic. We are scheduled to meet on October 10th with the mediator. Let's all just take a deep breath, put away the poisonous pens, preparing messaging for Facebook, chest beating, and find some common ground. We can do this. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.